Living on the Miami coastline means subjecting a building to decades of salt air, high humidity, and aggressive storms. When these high-rises hit their mandatory 50- and 60-year recertification windows, the structural wear is undeniable. When moisture penetrates aging concrete, the internal steel reinforcement expands and cracks the surrounding structure. These fissures jeopardize the building's load-bearing capacity, making water intrusion a direct threat to the tower's survival. Evaluating structural columns and engineering blueprints requires specialized expertise that the average owner doesn't possess. Residents have to rely on their board of directors to interpret the technical data and report on the building's true condition. In high-rise living, the line between safety and catastrophe is drawn by the board's willingness to be transparent about the engineering reality. Look at the information strategy the administration at Imperial House employed in May of 2026. Management distributed these highly polished, color-coded weekly building updates, filled with bright photography and clean graphics. The language in these documents projects calm control. When discussing ongoing water issues, the memo explicitly reassures residents that engineers are evaluating the best solutions for what they describe as remaining minor leaks. Outside the margins of those PDFs, residents are experiencing a chaotic daily reality. Service elevators are broken, awaiting obsolete parts. Access to the parking garage requires navigating clearance bars and strict vendor requirements. Inside the living spaces, steel shoring columns are being installed to hold up aging structural beams. With daily physical disruptions this severe, it raises the question of how accurately these friendly public memos reflect the actual engineering data. Professional graphic design and measured corporate phrasing are highly effective tools. They can easily mask a deteriorating physical reality and a struggling administration. To find the true condition of the property, we have to bypass the public memos and look at the internal records. These are the private meeting minutes generated by DeSimone Consulting engineers. The table of open issues contradicts the polished updates. The engineers report severe material deterioration, exposed steel plating, and active water intrusion that require immediate mitigation. Look at the top level. Engineers explicitly flag an active leak inside Penthouse A's living room, right next to the sliding glass door. The immediate directive isn't to replace the failing roof, it's to explore a temporary solution. Behind closed doors, the project is stuck in an operational stalemate. A remote project manager operating from London, along with the engineering team, is pushing to execute a proper, permanent structural roof replacement. The board president is hesitating, favoring temporary tarps and targeted patches. The contractors are ready to work, and the engineers have identified the fixes. The bottleneck stalling the building's restoration is a paralyzed board refusing to approve systemic repairs. Stalling a building-wide roof replacement while aggressively pushing for temporary patches on specific upper units appears illogical for a board focused on the entire community. The explanation points directly toward Dan Henry. As the board treasurer, he holds significant leverage over the association's finances, authorizing expenditures and steering contractor priorities. Dan Henry also owns Penthouse A. He is the owner of the exact unit identified in the engineering reports as receiving emergency association funds to stop an active leak in his living room. A sitting officer is overseeing, coordinating, and authorizing association money to protect his own private investment. While he secures temporary patches for his own ceiling, the permanent roof solution meant to protect the entire community remains stalled. Directing association capital based on the financial exposure of a single board officer compromises the safety of the entire property. This creates two separate realities inside Imperial House. Board members secure targeted emergency patches for their penthouse units. Meanwhile, lower levels face heavy structural interventions, like the prolonged beam repairs requiring steel shoring in the lanai units. Average owners are paying hefty assessments and losing the quiet use of their homes. They live with construction dust and metal poles propping up their ceilings, completely isolated from the internal political battles stalling the project. The persistent leaks and structural delays at Imperial House point to a breakdown in transparency and governance. Roofs do not negotiate with the weather, and saltwater does not care about internal board politics. Any administration that prioritizes self-interest over structural integrity will inevitably lose to the elements.